Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and our second episode here of Hollywood Animal. Last episode or last video, we went through some of the basics on the construction of the studio lot, some of our buildings and some of the things that were going on. We still have a story workshop under construction. We did build a sound stage and released our first movie. We got the writers writing a couple of new movies, and this time around, I think we're gonna go through basically the whole production of a movie in our studio, and we'll go through some of those things. We still have 10 million in the account, but again, this is going to go down over time as we go through this episode because we're going to have to pay salaries and that kind of thing. So, and we can kind of take a look at what we're spending, right? So this is our income from our movies. You can kind of see the expenses here, and then buildings, and this was all of this was all of the construction costs for the buildings that we have. We're not able to take a loan yet because we haven't researched that yet. We have pretty good amount of utility costs, but you can see here the salaries, right? So this is where a big part of our payments are going. Almost $500,000 for salaries so far, and then upgrade costs was 99,000. Well, basically 100,000. So that's just for the year so far, and we're only in May in the game. So here's something here that just came up, and it's talking about a journalist that wants to come on site, wants a tour of the of the lot, basically, of the studio, and whether or not we want the investigative journalist to kind of wander on their own or to have an escort. And what we're going to do is we're not going to let them wander alone. We're going to assign someone to them. And this is basically letting us know that some of these tasks, basically up here, that are marked with an exclamation point, there's a time duration, and then we need to assign someone to that. Right. So right now we don't have any productions going on. Right now is a great time to do that. We're going to add the only actress that we have available to us right now on site, and she's going to want payment for doing this for them, for us actually. So $15,000 payment is what we're looking at now. Again, if we had the services in there, potentially we could have used something to pay that instead of cash out of our account. But since we don't have services up yet, we have nothing to offer her other than cash. So cash payment, and they're going to take a tour, and then we can see here that she was marvelous. The journalist was dead drunk by mid-afternoon, so looks like we're in good standing there because we also took the guy home. So that was a it's another part of the story parts that keep coming up, right? And he wrote a nice article, and so now we've gotten some reputation points because of his article, basically stating that we're in good. And the reputation points will come in play later on, later game, as we get into potentially other studio alliances and that kind of thing. I'm going to move the clock forward a little bit here, kind of rush it up a little bit so that we can get our story workshop built, and then also our stories that are currently in written. And you have a couple of options here with regards to the speed on the time. You can see we're moving pretty quick right now. And technical support has now been researched, and so now we can, from pre-production, we can go into a casting office if we want. That's a 70-day lead time on that. Scouting office for better locations and such, that's going to be a 400-day upgrade and a 300-day upgrade for sets and props. Since the casting office will allow us to hire new actors and directors, we're going to go ahead and cinematographers really, and everybody. We're going to go ahead and do that upgrade since it's the shortest one. And then here's our story workshop. And we'll go ahead and open that up. And basically, what this gives you is a workshop to do, to create basically your own movie with different settings and different attributes to the movie. So let's do the Big Easy, we'll name it. And then what do we want it to be? We can have it be an event. We know we have an adventure writer. It can be a detective story as well. This slider up here indicates how much of the story is dedicated to that specific genre. And really, you don't want to put too many of them in here, but multiple things in here aren't necessarily a bad thing, right? So now if we have an adventure writer available, that would be the person that we would want to write this. If we had maybe a drama person, maybe we have more in the drama part of it, and maybe that's where we go with it, right? So I think we have a drama writer available, so I'm going to do and then we got different settings here that we can use. Detective, adventure, drama. Probably not in a fantasy kingdom area. Probably not a tropical island area. So our next three choices then, our settings are going to be in the modern American city, a modern American town, and Wild West. Keep in mind now, this is the time frame we're talking about here is 1929, right? So a modern American city in 1929 is not modern by today's standards. So, but we're going to choose modern American city, and then this are going to be our story elements. Okay, and you kind of get an explanation from the head of the script department here, talking about, it's not a good story to just write about a cowboy or about a detective. Good movies are sophisticated, everything in place, secondary characters, themes, events, meaningful endings, so on and so forth, right? So when we have these elements here, we click on it and we have a window that comes up. These are the elements that we've already researched or that we've already gotten from the old studio or from our writers, and so this is what we're going to be looking at. So we have a 30% detective here, so the best thing for that, it's going to be detective. Our antagonist for the story is multiple different options here. Now, it wouldn't be a good idea to put the detective in with a tribal chief, right? Or an evil witch, or even an evil monster. What we're probably looking at is bandit, criminal mastermind, murderer, or serial killer, because we're going to be going along with the story, right? So we can choose bandit, and then if we have a supporting character, we can click on that, and some of these things come up. Some of the elements for supporting characters come up. Something like maybe a mentor or a rival. Maybe it's a rival detective, mentor detective. Maybe it's a damsel in distress or a femme fatale. I think probably for this one we'll choose the mentor as a supporting character, and you can have multiple supporting characters in these movies as well, right? And then our theme and events in this, well, could be a bank robbery since there was a bandit, right? We could be searching for a killer, although that doesn't really fit with bandit. That would be better with like serial killer, for instance. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to do bank robbery. Now, the other thing is with the themes and events, you can also do multiple. And so maybe the detective has a shootout with the bandit. Okay, and so now we've got the maximum story elements in the story. So we don't even have a finale. So that's probably not a good idea, because right now what we want to do is we want to put some sort of a finale behind this. We want to maybe have the antagonist get killed, or he repents, gets punished. Maybe he gets caught, right? And gets put in jail. There's other options here too, but I think this is the best one here. So now we've got all of our maximum amount of story elements. And as your studio grows and as your writers grow and they gain more experience in that, you'll be able to add additional story elements into this. So now we're going to select the screenwriter, and we have thriller is the one that we're looking for, a drama detective adventure. So I missed on all of them. So we're going to have him go to work on that story. But that is basically the new building that we bought and built the story workshop. And this is where I was talking earlier about new story elements. We were researching, developed new story elements, and so when a writer is not busy, they can do a search for new story elements. Okay, the next thing I think on this particular section here that we're going to do, because let's do this. Let's do this upgrade next. The 6 story elements in the story workshop. So that basically, I mentioned earlier, we were at the max story elements in that particular story that we just started to write with 5, right? So that story element now, because we're doing this research, this is going to allow us to add a 6th story element to our movies, right? And we're going to eventually, we could go all the way up to 10. But our next research will be probably the rolling edits, because we're going to need from time to time to rewrite some stories for the actors, because there's something is going to come up where the actor needs time off, or they got hurt, or something of that nature. So, and right now we're waiting here. We've got about 7 more days, down to 5 now. Okay, so this was for the secret, right? So the first couple of days he was on duty, he was not able to lower the risk of our secret getting out, of us not paying Joe Duvall's family for his additional earnings. We're going to continue to keep the security person on that. Okay, so we just researched the $1 million loan. You can see here it enables you to borrow $1 million for 1 year at a 22% interest rate. That's high, but back in 1929, that may have actually been the case. Now, the other thing is with the loans, you don't have the ability to pay it off early. It is due at that 1 year. It will, regardless of how much money you have mid-year. If you take a loan out, you don't have the ability to repay it early unless you research the early repayment of that loan. So what we're going to do right now, since that takes more than a year to research that, and keep in mind we're at a 9% overall speed up, right? So this would have been about 500 days. We're going to upgrade that now, and we're researching that upgrade. And so now he's been on the job, and now the risk went down. He was able to thwart some of the leak getting out. I'm going to keep him on that. And we've now gotten some additional influence points because we wrote a script. And even though this script isn't great, this is one we're going to go ahead and get produced. So now our writer just leveled up because of the experience he got from writing the script. So, and this is a drama action in a modern city, cop, serial killer. You can see that basically this is 4 of 5 elements to the story. So we're going to start the project. And so now this is going into the production room. We're going to choose a cinematographer. And what we want to do is we want to try to line up the star quality here. This 3.7 should come pretty close to these two scores. It should come pretty close. So we don't want the 2.1, that's not close. 3.7. And we're going to use the sound stage. So some of these you can kind of take a look and tell. The other thing is you can see he's comfortable filming on sound stages as well as on locations. Pretty comfortable in both of those. For the city streets, we're going to go with on location. For the city interiors, we're going to go with the sound stage. Movie theater, station, and hotel all are going to do soundstage. And right now we don't have good, real good sets or anything, so we can't go any higher than level 1. We don't have a scouting office either, so we can't go any higher than a level 1 location for all of these. This is how long it's going to take the film to film each scene, and then this is the amount of money that it's going to take, and you can see there how that breaks out. And then we're going to use our camera technology that we have and our sound technology that we have. Because this actually is a pretty good first film here, we're going to do extras and plenty of crew. And then on the producer, same thing. We'd like to get the highest producer, or at least as close to these as possible, if not higher. Director is the same. We don't want this director because he is way under these values. He's a little over it, so we might actually improve the film quality here. These scores can improve depending upon what's put forth in the making of the movie. So now our actors, these are the same thing. We don't want this guy in this movie because he is not anywhere near these numbers. So we're going to choose him for the cop and her for the serial killer, which is kind of weird. And unfortunately, she is only a 2.9, so she's going to bring the movie down a little bit, even if these two guys bring the movie up. And then at this point, it's basically telling you how long the production's going to be, and how much it's going to cost. We're going to accept it, and we're going to start the project. And so this is going to then go out into pre-production for 22 days, and then it's going to go to production when it's ready, and we'll get an indication up here. It'll turn gold, and you'll see it here momentarily. So we let her go, and her star value was a 2.9, and she's come back, and she's now a 3.5 as far as her star rating. So she's now improved her abilities, basically. So we're going to continue with that. And in another 4 days, we're going to have another script that's complete. And we'll take a look at that here in just a second. And we'll see what... Again, we get the points there. This one's even higher than the other one we just sent to production. So we're going to send this one also to production. So when you're at 4.4 of 5, that's a pretty good score, and so is 4.0 of 5. And you can see here that the head of the script department got some experience, as did the writer. We're going to start this project. And this is right back to the same screen. So now this is where we were going to have a problem, right? We don't want this guy doing this movie because he's way under. And we don't have a way to have this guy on 2 movies yet. So what we need really, you can see here, to hire cinematographers, build a casting office. And that's one of the things that we were researching earlier, right? So I'm going to cancel that. And that's going to basically go up here in planning, and it's white because um, there's nothing associated to it yet. It's not moving. Okay, so we researched marketing and outreach. We can research the printing office, although you can see that's going to take a long time. We can research analytics and statistics. That also is going to take quite a while. Or we can research our theater management. And I think what we're going to do is research the theater management. That's going to take a little more than a year to get done. Let's see, where are we with day 2? Story elements. So we do have a couple of things that we can build here. We can build the technical support and the marketing and outreach building. Technical support, this is going to allow us to purchase newer technology when they release newer technology for cameras and for sound equipment. We'll be able to purchase that. So we're going to build that. And now this one is ready to go to production. The pre-production work was done, and sometimes it will increase, sometimes it will decrease. We got a pretty good increase there, and we got nothing out of that one. So not uncommon. And we can kind of see where we missed the mark and where we hit. We missed the mark on the cinematographer, location, and the costumes and props. Everything else we hit on. So that's why the score went up. This is what I was talking about earlier with regards to needing to hire some additional security. So we're going to add security to that film production. That way, if anything happens on set, security is on there. Now this is basically in filming. We've just added our 6 story elements in the story workshop. And so that opens up the ability to go to 7 if we need to. But I think what we're going to do right now is we're going to start on these rolling edits so that we can start researching that. So now you can see here, this has got 93 days left of filming left before this film is ready to go to post-production and then be released. Cinematographer, you can see he's got 62 days left on the film that he's currently doing. So we don't have a cinematographer good enough yet. And we're going to be getting another story here shortly. What you can see here, we can have them search for a new story element to add to the workshop. Here's another script that just came in out of a possible 6. Not a real good story, but we do have a cinematographer that we can probably put on this. Now, our writer just leveled up, so the next time he writes a story, it probably won't be that as bad. And you can see here it gives you kind of a combination of successful combinations. And so I think, we've got pretty good combination there. We're going to start this project as well because we have a cinematographer that's not too far off of these, right? We're not going to do a sound stage because we don't have one available for another 57 days, but we probably need to get something else in production. So he's okay with working on site. So that's what we're going to do, on location only. And look, on location shooting takes longer, so you'll see that here, and it's more expensive. But we're going to get this movie out, and we don't need a soundstage for it. We don't need to buy extra cameras or anything or sound equipment. We have it already there. So now this person here, even though they're only at a 2.9, it is higher than our our listed numbers there, so we're okay to choose them. This one as well. And this is where we could potentially use this guy here because his numbers actually are higher. So what we're going to do is we're going to move him as the detective. We're going to use him as the mentor, and we're going to use him as the bandit. All three of those people were already employed by the studio, so we didn't need to worry about getting a different person. Now you can see here the production time is 120 days. Here's the total cost of the film, so we're already going to be, $300,000 basically in the hole on this movie. So we need to make that back and then some before we can even start to make a profit. And now this one is going into pre-production for 20 days. And time is still ticking here. And we just researched the casting office. Okay, so we have the technical support researched. We can do additional research here based off of the casting office. However, what we need to do now is we're going to need to take a look at our sets and props. And I think what we're going to do is potentially shave off 30 days or a month basically off of that research by using a little cash as well as our influence points. We're going to get our sets and props going. So that's being researched. And we now have a new building here, and that's the casting office. And we're going to build that because we're going to be able then, that's going to allow us to hire potentially cinematographers and directors and producers and so on and so forth, as well as actors. So here's the head of the script department coming to us with something. And you can pause it here to read it if you'd like. Keep in mind, everybody, this is my second ever video, so please bear with me as I mull through this. You can pay for the script basically having unread it, and you don't know whether it's going to be any good or not. So that's the one thing to it. Now I will say it is only $1,000, so there is there is the chance that you could get a good script for $1,000, although I don't know that that's necessarily the case. So I always choose, I'm not crazy yet. We have script writers, we're able to write scripts, so at this point it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. We can do action and or adventure, and so you can see here we've got one adventure, so, and we have a thriller, so we don't really have anything else. So what I'm going to do is this icon here, this magnifying glass, this is going to allow him to search for new or create, there's a chance to create a new story element within the story workshop. So, and he's going to work on that for a number of days. And this is represented here. Let me that. Okay, and to buy new image and sound technologies, click on the cart. It's telling us there's nothing here in image, nothing here in sound, so we can't buy any new technology yet. Okay. And this is ready for production at this point. We can see here that we spent about $74,000 and turned it from a 2.3 into a 4.1. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good uptick. That's bigger than normal. And then 2.0 to 3.3. We're going to go, and the only thing we missed on was the extras. Everything else we hit on, so that's the reason why we bumped it up so much. Now, we don't have another security guy here, So we could wait for 7 days for him to finish, or we could just start production. We're just going to go ahead and start that production now. And we're going to see if we have a cinematographer. We do not have one yet that we can use. So this indication here, this is for the days left to discover a new story element. Yeah, and as you can see here on the screen, sometimes there's accidents or incidents that happen during the production of the film, and what we need to do then is to try to solve that issue. Okay, so he's worked some more time on this, so he's going to have about 8 days left on this assignment. Because he's already worked 72 days. We saw that when it popped up, and it's only 80 days that it's in the possibility for it to be leaked. He did gain some experience for that time, and we're going to leave him on it. So let's go ahead and see what this issue is. So the actress that's in this movie brought her cat to set. They ran away, and now she's crying and can't focus on her role. And so there's a couple of options here. We can say, well, those aren't my problems, but her happiness as well as her loyalty will decrease and it will lower the quality of the film. And we don't really need that right now. We could tell everyone to look for her cat. That's going to stop the filming immediately for 10 days while they look for the cat, but her loyalty will increase by 25, which will put her at over 100%. Now these things here aren't available to us because we don't have some of these things in play. For instance, this one here, shoot whatever scenes you can without her. It will slow down for by 30% for 10 days, and her happiness will decrease by 20, which we wouldn't be able really to afford much anyway. But that requires a flexible schedule upgrade, and we haven't even considered researching that upgrade yet. Or we could give her something to calm her down, but this requires heroin. And this is a thing that, first off, it would lower the quality of the film, is all that would happen there. This is part of the services thing. You can have them potentially, the head of the services could be persuaded potentially to acquire heroin for folks on the lot. I've not been able to get someone aligned enough to be able to do that. So, but we're going to choose this one here. Have everybody. Now you can see that the movie is paused. Production is paused. It's not moving. 49 days. This is the day wait that we're looking at. And so this is, 7 more days before they're back at shooting. And again, that services building is available, but we're not going to be looking at that anytime soon. Okay, let's see what kind of other ideas we have out here. So we got a couple of romance, but we don't have any romance writers, so we're going to get rid of those. Now, the one thing that a lot of the other games have, or at least a couple of the other games have, that this one doesn't, that I wish it would be is that if you have a finished script that you haven't produced, it would show up in this finished scripts, for instance. And in other games, I know you can turn around and potentially sell those scripts for for money back into your account. It would be nice if we were able to do that, but unfortunately, this game does not provide for that. And our casting office is now available to us. So now what we can do, and this is our head of maintenance, because the building was built, he's got an uptick in his experience. So now what we can do is, if we so choose, we can go out now and hire a cinematographer. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through that process here. So let's take a look back. So we've got a 4.4 and a 4 out of 5. So what we would ideally like to have would be someone that would be at least a 4.4 or higher. And then you will see here, these are the costs for 1 year for this person is 107. So that ends up being basically $10,700. Or they can be hired for a movie or multiple movies, and at basically 5,800, I think, per movie. I typically don't do time. I typically always select for movies. And then I usually hire them for 3 movies. Now you'll see here, unfortunately, it adds up. There's a factor here that it adds. So his total cost for this movie is going to be, for 3 movies, is going to be $14,400 that we're paying him, right? So we're going to accept that. The other thing is, I saw another cinematographer out here I think I want to hire for the same thing, because he is a 7.9, and that is really good. So if we happen to get movies in that range, or that he might be able to help us with, then we're going to already be ahead of the curve on that one. So I've chosen to hire those 2. And so what we're going to do is we're going to select him. You can see here how many movies he's got left until the contract expires. Again, you can hire them on a yearly basis, 1, 2, or 3 years. It is higher to do that, so their cost is higher to do that. However, as you can see, the filming schedule is not that lengthy. We're not to that yet. The filming schedule won't be that lengthy, so you could potentially, instead of doing 1 movie a year, or even 2 movies a year, you might be able to get them into 3 or 4 movies a year. And therefore, if you had them for 3 years, you could, in theory, end up with potentially 12 movies out of them. The problem with that is, however, is that if you don't use him, anytime you don't use him, you're still basically, his time is ticking down, or her. So I don't think we have a soundstage available. Yeah, we don't have a soundstage available. So what we're going to do is we're going to choose, since he's okay with working on location, we're going to go ahead and put them all on location for his scenes in this particular movie. We don't need a soundstage then. And I think what we'll probably do is we'll go ahead and we'll build a second soundstage very soon. And our camera and our sound equipment. So again, we don't have a producer available, and we don't have the ability yet to put 2 films per producer. We are researching, or we will research that. So what we need now is a producer that is going to be probably right around this guy. He's a 4.0. I would like to have him a little higher, but I don't think we want to pay that much for that much overkill. So what we're going to do is we're going to choose him. And again, same thing here, where I'm going to pick movies. It's more cost effective that way, unless you're going to be able to get that person into multiple movies a year. Then it probably makes more sense to go on a yearly basis. Now this guy here would probably fit okay. He's a little lower on this side, but he's higher on that side. But we'll see if we can find someone inexpensive enough, like this guy here. And actually for him, I actually may hire for 3 years. Again, it does take the contract up a bit, right? The contract type, he gets a bonus for that. But we're only paying $8,000 for 3 years' time for that guy. So we might be able to get him a couple of movies in that time frame. We got a 3.9 here, 4.0, but this guy was cheaper as a 6.5, and we'll probably use him for this movie. And now we have no actors. So it's the same thing. We're going to go out here and try to find some 4.0 actors at least. There's a 4.0 here at 139 a movie, which is basically 13,000. I don't have anything really close, so we're gonna have to hire him. We could hire him just for one movie, right? Then he doesn't get a bonus here for the contract type. However, if you put multiple movies down, you'll see his contract type does go up, but he's not charging 139 per movie. So 139 would typically be about 278. So he's already given us a little bit of a discount there, and then with 3 movies, it's cheaper in the long run. So we're going to pay him almost $35,000 for 3 movies, and that's a little on the upper side this early in the game, but we're going to do it. And then I would say the next guy we'll do is this one here, and he's going to be for 3 years. We're going to hire him, I think. So let's do 3 movies. You can see here now it's almost nothing. It's $8,500. So we're going to hire him too, because we're going to need him as well. So our clumsy oaf is going to be this guy. And he's telling us here, choose actors who are at least the same level as the script. That's what I was mentioning earlier. Problem is we didn't have anybody out there same level that was going to be cost effective. There's the length of time, and this is kind of what I was mentioning before, right? So if you hire someone for 3 years, you're going to get 1, maybe 2 movies a year out of them potentially. And so for me, it's just easier if I hire them based upon movies rather than years. Let's see if we've got any other script ideas. We've got a detective story, and let's maybe have him do that one for now, while this one is doing his story and the other one is trying to research a story element for the story workshop. So now we've got 2 movies in production. One's 45 days out from being complete that would then move to post-production. We've got one that's more than 90 days out, and then we've got one up here 21 days out from in pre-production currently before it moves to production. So here's something from the PR executive stating, be a great chance for our studio to make a name for itself. Only A-list actors are invited to the event. We don't have any A-list actors, so we'd have to go hire someone. And you can see there, we'll sign a contract with someone suitable. Well, you have to pay them to do that. And it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. We would gather some influence points for sure from it, but is it enough to offset the cost? I don't know that it's worth it. So I usually tell it not to do that. And then you can see here some tags that some of the actors and or directors will get from time to time, and you can see here that it reflects public or critical appreciation of their talents. None of our actors, I don't think at this point, have anything like that yet, and we can look at that here. Well, actually, I guess we do. We have a leader and a hot-tempered in Peter Harris. He is conceited. So you can see some of these misogynists. So this would not be a good person to put in a movie with a damsel in distress, for instance. We wouldn't want to do that. This guy here's an alcoholic and a misogynist. Same thing for him. She's a perfectionist, and you'll see this one here again. keep in mind, this is the American film industry in the 1920s, late 20s, early 30s now. These people at that time, they potentially were racist and potentially drug users, drug addicts, and not so much so that there aren't any now, but misogynistic potentially as well. So your screenwriters typically don't have the same kind of those kinds of attributes. They certainly can be racist and stuff, but typically you're going to find where they might be a gambler, they might be an alcoholic or an addict, but typically they're not going to be the same. And the directors are much different. Usually there's one without any indication as to a trait, if you will. Here's some cinematographers, calm, perfectionist. Now this one here is an addict. So they do have some of those traits that go along with it that normal people might have, or some people may have. Back out a little bit while we watch this tick down. We also have 68 days left for this writing to happen. So in another 10 days, this one's going to be ready for production, and so this one will go to production. And now we're presented here with the story, and I'll, if you want to pause and read that, you're more than welcome to. But this is the mayor of Los Angeles mentioning that he took his family to the movies last night, and his daughter sure thought it would be neat to be an actor, I guess, is really the only way I can put it. And so we have three different options here. What he's asking us to do is he's asking us to put her into one of our movies. We have three options. One is that we can give her a role within 2 years, but can't guarantee it's going to be a hit. We can give her a role alongside a top actor, and that means that it must have a 5-star at least, and release the film within 1 year. Or we can tell him, sorry, we don't want her as an actress. Well, what we're going to do, since she's a free actress, we don't have to pay her for a movie. She has no star quality at this point. We're going to tell him that we'll guarantee get her in a movie, but no guarantees that it's going to be a hit. And so she's a 0.1, so that's like there's no star quality there, right? She's brand new. Okay, we've got a headquarters upgrade. This is going to come into play later for mid-level legal protection. And what we will do is get the high-level legal protection researched. And I think what we probably should do is get another soundstage started. Actually, let me see something here. There is a soundstage upgrade, level 2 soundstage that we can potentially build as well, but we need to research it first. And we're getting a little long here on the time, so I want to. This is another head of another studio, the Gerstein Brothers studio. Just a little bit of a talk about, how do you like, asking how I like the industry and so on and so forth. And I'm going to let him know I think I got it from here. And so this is our first time we're seeing something here. So one of our actors was approached by another studio, offered some additional money, said he's ready to forfeit $65,000 for the early termination of his contract. He doesn't think he's going to like it there, though. So what can we offer him? He wants $20K. There's also some blackmail material that we have on him. Okay. sex with a 15-year-old, again, back in 1929. It was still probably illegal, but this is something that we have on him. This is not something that we should be using for this, however, and I'll show why later in another episode. But we're going to pay him 20,000 to stick with us and turn away from the Gernstein brothers. And then we're going to get this one in production, and we'll probably end the episode with that since this is a really long episode. I wanted to get to this point here. So we've increased it from a 4.4 to a 4.6, which is not a big increase. This one took a dive, unfortunately. So we still got some experience there. We missed on a lot of marks here. The producer, the actors, the locations, everything missed. Well, not everything. A lot of things missed. And we still don't have a free security personnel. So we're going to move that, though, to production. And we can see here, we now have 3 movies in production. But that's the end of our pipeline for now. We don't have anything else going on. Okay, we have a sound studio that's now available, and Film Lab is going to help us later, so we're going to research that. And I think at this point what we're going to do is we're going to, let's see, start the construction of the sound studio. The reason why we're doing this is going to save us money in the long run, because we'll be able to do things when we go through post-production where we won't have to pay for some of the sound work. All right, so he's been on for 48 days. The risk level went up a little bit because he wasn't successful. He only gained a couple of experience points because he wasn't successful. And so that's continuing to go for another 32 days. I think we're going to stop here since this is a long episode. I wanted to at least get this far with this second episode. If you guys like this content, please like, subscribe, share, comment below if you don't like it. I'm trying this for the first few times, and we'll see what happens. I'll probably play other games as well and record those, but let me know. Thanks. See you next time.